When they came back for the spring semester, Casey worked hard to get back the good reputation of the sorority. Cappy started dating Rebecca Logan, which Casey hated, and Rusty had to deal with the rivalry between Kappa Tau and Omega Chi. They taped him to a building. He stopped being friends with Calvin, who came back to Omega Chi with the help of his new best friend, Evan. Casey had to deal with Lizzie from Nationals, who was making the ZBZ's reputation worse. She was perky and annoying. Casey got rid of her, but had to bring back Franny, who seemed reformed. She wasn't. Cameron from Ferris Bueller came in and started restricting the Greeks because of Jen K's article, and because he's the dean of students. The Greeks didn't like that, so Cappy and Evan worked together to get the restrictions lifted. They still hate each other, though. In the meantime, Casey hooked up with a 16-year-old, and Rusty got crabs and a fake ID, which he tried to use during spring break. The ID, not the crabs. Okay, spring break, Myrtle Beach. Rusty wanted to go back to campus and found himself traveling back with Calvin, who he still wasn't friends with. Still forced them to make up, though. Rebecca found out that her philandering senator father was busted for an illegal prostitution ring, so she got all girls gone wild and broke up with Cappy, who kissed Casey on the beach. Then they heard about Rebecca's dad and felt bad. Evan and Franny hooked up. Then Casey found out about Evan and Franny. It took Casey time to process.
Still processing.
Meanwhile, Rusty had a crisis of confidence with polymer science and met his new RA, Max, who talked him down. While Rebecca was dealing with her disintegrating family, she tried to lean on Cappy, who couldn't step up for her. The damage was done and they broke up. Just as Casey met Max and they tried to break the bank. He taught her to count cards. Casey realized she actually kind of liked Max, but it turned out he had a girlfriend. Then it turned out the girlfriend was no longer alive. Despite the complications, Casey and Max got together anyway. Aww. Evan finally got his trust fund with a few strings attached. He was skeptical, but Franny convinced Evan to suck it up and embrace his piles and piles of money, so he bought an Iron Man Audi. Franny used Evan's money to bribe the pledges to like her. Casey figured out her plan and threw a drink in her face. It was awesome. Meanwhile, Rusty introduced Max to Cappy. Finding out Casey was dating someone made Cappy sad, so he got drunk on a boat with Dale. Rusty was feeling pretty lonely too, so Ashley offered to be his date to the ZBZ formal. It was sweet. But Rusty wanted a real girlfriend, so he tried that speed dating thing and ran into Jen K, who accidentally spilled a drink on him. He wondered if maybe Jen was the one after all, but then he decided she wasn't. Back at ZBZ, the house finally had the election, and it was Franny versus Casey. And the winner was Ashley. What? I know, right? Ashley didn't know what the hell she was doing, but Casey helped her out. Sort of. Finally, the end of the school year. All we have left is Hell Week. Rusty and Calvin got kidnapped in their beds and had to do push-ups and dance around in bikinis. Rusty worried he didn't have enough Kappa Tau spirit, so he stole his old pledge paddle from Omega Chi. You remember the one he hit Evan with? But Evan caught him, the Omega Chis chased him, the Kappa Taus defended him, and it turned into something out of Braveheart. But Evan did get back at Rusty by hitting him with that pledge paddle, but it all worked out in the end as Rusty and Calvin both got initiated. Rusty was happy, but Calvin learned what Evan did and got a little freaked out. Casey got a lot freaked out when Max dropped the news that he was gonna have to leave in the fall to go to grad school on the other side of the country. As if that weren't complicated enough, Casey received an offer for a summer internship from Brandon and Brenda's mom, who she met at the ZBZ National Convention. The internship was in Washington, D.C. on the other side of the country, and she just didn't know what to do. So she asked Cappy, and he wasn't very helpful. Casey decided she had to break up with Max, and yeah, it totally sucked, but she had to do what was best for her future. But then Max made a phone call. What's up with that? And then, as if her week hadn't sucked enough, Casey went to the ZBZ initiation ceremony where Franny showed up late wearing red and looking evil. She announced she was starting her own sorority and took half the girls with her, including Rebecca? Maybe? We don't know that yet. Don't you totally want to know?